few weeks ago, I was back in my hometown, Tallahassee, Florida, and got the opportunity to do some filming with my Panasonic GH5, the Lumix 25mm f1.7, and the 14-42 f3.5 to 5.6. Now, to kind of start things off, I spent about 2 hours filming, kind of just roaming around, where I kind of knew that I needed a diverse kind of selection of slow-mo, I needed some super slow-mo, and then I needed some super crispy, high quality 24 frames. Now, a lot of that might have been locked off. That being said, let's jump right into the edit. And as we kind of look at the edit, you guys can see the timeline. To just start it off, I'm going to actually jump in and deactivate pretty much all the sound effects. And then we're also going to deactivate my adjustment layer. And so that way you guys can just see the footage. So one thing that I spent a lot of my time on just from the get-go, and I do this with a lot of my projects, is I like to pull a lot of my footage into my editor, which would be Final Cut Pro, and then I like to quickly just glance at it, get my head around what's the look and feel, and then I make my way to music. Now, some people like to edit to music, which is what I prefer, which means that I am going to make music the driver behind my video and then edit to the music. I probably spent about 2 hours, maybe 3 hours finding this particular track, which I happen to actually find on YouTube royalty free. So that's a great option. And I kind of just knew right off the get-go that it had that feel, that punchiness, and kind of that like motorcycle or like shop vibe, kind of like machinery, things of that sort. So the first 5 seconds is consisted of a lot of quick cuts, speed ramps, and pacing to the music. So the first shot is going to open up with a fade to color, or like a crossfade, fade to black is what a lot of us kind of like to call it. And it's simply with the music coming in, we're going to fade into the shot. You're going to see the tail end of the motorcycle. And as we make our way here, this is where things get interesting. I am going to then end up speed ramping drastically. And on top of that, we have some motion blur to make that look a little bit more authentic. And we're speed ramping and then slowing it down right on that logo, all while simultaneously kind of doing it to the music. So let's watch that. So when that bump, that is when I ideally am trying to time that bump and my speed ramp for when that bump hits, for it to nice slow down, so I can kind of like dramatically make you hear that bump and also see what I'm trying to kind of get your eyes or your attention to focus on. And then after that, what you guys will see is a sequence of quick cuts, tight shots, kind of showing the viewer, okay, we have Aprilia, we have Ducati, we have Triumph, we have all these things, boom, 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 while simultaneously kind of going to the music. And this is just showing the viewer, okay, this is about motorcycles, and I am immediately addressing all the different bikes as fast as we can in that first 5 seconds. So here we go. Boom. And now at the end of that 5 seconds, we have the kind of pull out or the pan out from Florida Motorsports and the back end of the motorcycle. Now there's a specific reason why I did that. A lot of the beginning shots are really not telling you that this is Florida Motorsports. It's telling you and signaling to you that this is about motorcycles, and then right when I need to push a little bit of an ad or the branding side of things, I'm gonna throw it in while also cut to the music, and it's got that nice pull out. So at first, you know it's a motorcycle, but then as we finish towards the end, it's kind of subtly telling the audience, hey, this is who this kind of video is for or about, and then it's not too pushy without you have to say anything. It's kind of there, and the audience kind of it just clicks like a light bulb. With a lot of these, I pretty much am using 24 frames for the quick cuts, no slow-mo there. Really where I'm using slow-mo is going to be more on the pans, like you guys saw at the very end of the 5 seconds. That was actually speed ramped up with a little bit of motion blur. We actually ramped it to 2000% coming in, and then back to 100 once Florida Motorsports comes back into focus. And now we'll kind of walk a little bit through more of the video and some of the different shots and kind of what's going on here. Then what we lead into is several shots of kind of more wide shots, showing you more of the bikes. So we kind of sparked the interest in the beginning with a lot of quick cuts, nice tight shots, and then we've kind of said, hey, this is about Florida motorsports, and now we're showing them the whole kind of shabam. Now that being said, we're going to have a lot more wider shots with a variety of items in it. So we have this wide shot outside of the shop. We then have a nice little pan from the helmet house to the floor of the shop. Once again, showing you a lot of things. Now saying, hey, rather than like tweaking your interest, let me show you what we have to offer. And then one of my favorite shots of this video being the showy premium helmet pan down. Really what I'm doing here is just holding the camera up in slow motion, going down and turning. Now, why did I do that? It just seemed like a unique shot with this kind of being a banner. And then on top of that, little did I know, timing wise, it would work perfect with the music. So we're going to go back and just watch during that shot. Not only is it timed up to the music, it's to give you kind of a look and feel that it's just pushing you along with the music. And we're doing a little speed ramp. We're starting normal and we're speed ramping to the end with the pace of the music. And then again, just hitting home to the beat of the music. Also doing a little bit of time lapse. Now this was shot with the GoPro, not as good quality, but we do have a little bit of a moderate motion blur on top of that to kind of give it that more realistic feel. Once again, we've got a nice reveal outside of the showy helmet shot, all kind of trying to go to the music, bigger, wider shots now that we are into the meat of the video. Still cutting as much as possible to the music. Also, try not to be completely repetitive in the cuts, but also trying to hit home when there's a nice thud or beat in the music. As we make our way to the last portion of the video, as you can see, I've kind of slowed it down a little bit on the pans and the whips and the scale ends. Now, I will say that for a lot of these shots, it's very minimal, but they are scaling in. If you guys can see the timeline, and a lot of the reason these clips actually start below the other clip is because I tend to like the scaling to start before you see it. That way it's not jolting when it jumps in and it just starts moving then. A lot of times you can kind of go underneath, have a clip already beginning with the scale, and it just seems to seamlessly move along a little bit better. So as you guys can see, we're scaling in here in this shot just a little bit, just to spice up the shot. And then on the Triumph, we also do the same. We're doing a little bit of a scale also while rotating. So we're scaling in and just slightly rotating. Gives it a little bit of a cool vibe for the audience. And then on top of that, I actually have an overlay that's been keyed on there. If you can see in the top right corner, just giving a little bit of a waviness, switching up the look of the shot. Some people might say that's silly, just trying to diversify the shots so that the user is still stimulated through this 30-second ad. Now, as we make our way here, this is going to be kind of a segment of just what I would consider like locked off shots or steady shots. Basically to say, here are the different items that we have, very simple. We've got the four-wheeler here. Nice. Then we're going to go into the Aprilia. Nice tight shot. I want to say I shot this at an f1.8, which is why we got the super blurry background. Shooting slow-mo and just kind of slowly panning across the Aprilia racing. And then we make our way to the Benelli TNT. Just simply panning, scaling. Got the gem car, shot in slow-mo, just hanging there, letting that logo breathe, letting the viewer see it, maybe spark their interest, maybe they never heard of Gem, they'll go look it up online later. And then we jump into some more shots of what the shop has to offer, a little bit of clothing, and a pan, parts and accessories, give you a little bit of a view. And last but not least, we lightly have the logo coming in over top, and simply put, just blending it. This is a nice pan shot. I was going slow-mo, basically slowly elevator style, lowering my camera, shooting it in slow-mo, and that way I knew I had something to be able to use at the end of the video where a logo could be thrown up. It wouldn't be too distracting and there would be some space for me to work with the actual logo. Other than a little bit of sound design, which in a nutshell, I just went into Final Cut. I grabbed some motorcycle. We've got Auto Garage Shop and a low frequency. And the reason that I actually want to focus on this low frequency for a quick second is this is the first time you see the bike. So not only are you hearing the music, but I also want there to be some kind of impact. So a thud. I think I actually put a muffled effect on there. And if you want to hear what that sounds like, we'll show you real quick. So when we come out of the fade to black, you should thud. Boom, like a heartbeat. And I just see that when added there, boom, jumps right in. And then last but not least, we talked about adjustment layer. That being said, as far as the LUT that I like to use here, I use Walkman LUT package from Daniel Schroeder. Probably butchered his last name. He is on YouTube. I do like his LUT package. Just to give you guys, that is the before and the after. And honestly, it gives a little bit of a golden look to things. It crushes the blacks, which I tend to like. And it honestly just gives a nice look and feel. And I tend to turn that down to about 70% because there's no need to go full blown. You want to make it look natural, but also with a creative flair. And then I usually throw a letterbox with a 1:8:5:1 kind of aspect ratio. That's kind of my go-to. So rather than the super crazy thin cinematic bars, we're just lightly bringing it in, just a little bit lower, a little bit more widescreen, nothing too crazy. That's kind of my staple. So hey guys, that is a quick synopsis on how I edited this video. I know there are a lot more ins and outs that go into it, but I'm highly encouraging a lot of you guys out there to experiment with speed ramping. It's super fun. It does take some time, and I also recommend using motion blur when doing speed ramping. Also experimenting with your B-roll of scaling in, maybe even doing a slight rotation. Also taking the advice that sometimes having that clip or that scale start below another so that when they actually meet and we move to the next clip, it's a nice smooth scale. Because if it starts right here, the second it jumps to the next, it then starts rather than already being to move. Now that's just something over the years that I've found for me personally as an editor, I think seems to make it more seamless. But I'd love for you guys to try and give me some feedback in regards to, did you think it worked? So hey guys, it's Trey Lowell with Lowell Productions. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Woo! That was a mouthful.